The motivation of most parents is to help their kid get a job. That is what they think the outcome of attending a college will be. They're not buying for, oh, well, my kid will be educated or well-rounded. They're buying, for the most part, most people are doing that because they believe that that is the best path or the only path to good work.
Aloha, folks, and welcome back to Degree Free. We have a bunch of stuff to get into today. We should just jump straight into it. The first thing that I want to get into is a comment from one of the videos that we've posted on YouTube, the shorts that we posted. The title of the video that we posted is Guidance Counselors Lack Vocational Creativity. And I don't have to play the video here or anything like that. I mean, we can link it in the show notes. Do you remember this video? Do you remember this clip?
I said this because I think it's of me, and it's me just saying that teachers and guidance counselors don't have very much vocational creativity because they took a job that was right in front of them. That's one of the top jobs that all kids know about. They went to college. If they're a guidance counselor, they went to more college, and then they went right back into a school. So they have very little range as far as what jobs are out there.
Yeah, you could have just stopped at that first point because that's what the clip was about. The second part, you didn't mention that. But the first part you did, which they don't have a lot of vocational creativity because they took a job that's right in front of their face, basically, more or less. That's what the clip is about.
Yeah, and it's not insulting. It just is.
Yeah, we're not throwing shade at it. It's just what it is.
It's like saying people that trim trees that work outside tend to be tan. Why? Because they're outside in the sun. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I was a fireman. And I'm not a great juggler, like because I don't work at a circus. There's a person that disagreed with this, kind of, sort of.
They did something.
It was pretty funny. And when I first read this comment, the thing is, everybody that listens to this podcast, you guys like us, go to YouTube and subscribe.
We hope you do.
Unless you are just hate listening or hate watching this, which people do. Like I know people do because of the comments on YouTube and
TikTok
and other places. Like people literally like watch our stuff, listen and watch us, and because they hate us.
Yes. And they keep doing so.
And then they keep commenting. And then I'm just like, guys, the way that the algorithm works is that if you keep commenting,
it'll keep bringing you back here.
Yeah. If you don't like what we have to say, just
block us.
Or just keep scrolling. Don't stop. When you see my face,
you don't have to listen.
Keep going.
You have total control over the situation.
Instead, you click and you comment and then you see more of my face. And so
and it just makes them angrier and angrier.
It's really funny. But anyway, what I'm about to say is if you listen to this, you like us, go and subscribe on YouTube to help get us more friendly faces there.
On the right side of YouTube.
Because people on YouTube hate us. They absolutely can't stand us.
It's true.
I'm going to read this comment. I don't know if they can't stand us because this is the first time I've seen a comment from them. Actually, you know what? I don't know whether or not this is the first comment that they've made. I'm just going to say it's the first comment that they've made. This is just from 2 letters, ML.
So to recap, this is about guidance counselors having vocational creativity, or not, rather.
Yeah, the beginning of this comment, I'll read it in its entirety first, but I will just preface this and say the beginning of this comment starts off very strong with at least like making some kind of argument or disagreeing with us, and the second part of the comment just deteriorates really quickly. And
as with most of those really long comments.
Here we go. So teachers apply for teaching jobs because they went to school, earned their degree and their credential, and are the only ones qualified for these jobs. Same with guidance counselors. They continued with their education, earned their credential, thus becoming qualified. She's talking like they just walked in off the street and got hired as teachers and counselors. These are horrifically underpaid and for the most part, thankless jobs, and she's wanting them to demonstrate vocational creativity? Why? It doesn't benefit them in the least. These are the types of jobs where engagement and loyalty are rewarded with more work. Most of those who stay in the profession learn to keep their head down, do the job, and hope it doesn't get much worse. Okay.
There's so many things to unpack in this comment. It's almost like we got to take it sentence by sentence.
What I meant by them starting strong in the first part is at least that's a valid opinion, I guess. I mean, it's all valid because it's your opinion. That's fine.
Everyone's opinion is their opinion, so it is valid because it's their opinion.
Right. So that was wrong. The first part of it talking about the counselors and the teachers getting their degrees and therefore they are
qualified to do
Yes.
They are qualified for their jobs. They're not qualified for the result that they're supposedly trying to get.
Sure, they're qualified for their jobs. That's fine.
Like qualified for the job listing itself.
Yeah. But that goes back to what we talked about before about the degree, the legal requirement breakdown for jobs. For teachers, the jobs require a degree because the license
Requires a degree.
Yeah,
which is changing rapidly.
Right, exactly.
And when we say changing, we don't mean that that's a new development. It's going back to the way that it was. It used to be teacher examinations. That's how teachers were licensed. That's how it should be. But the colleges got greedy and they said, wait, we can make money off of this group of people. And then they did. And then they kept doing it. And then they were like, oh, wait, we could do this to nurses too. And that was more recent. That's a little rabbit trail I want to break down at some point. That is something that I think is worth noting, is that Ryan and I don't believe that you need a degree to teach effectively. Why? Because you can be an effective teacher without having to buy a degree from a college. There are people who are extremely talented teachers. And when I say teachers, I don't mean they are public school teachers within a very narrowly defined job description. They are able to teach people, teach kids, teach whoever effectively. That is what a teacher is.
And it goes to what we were saying too, in not only is it just teachers, of being effective teachers and stuff like that, but we think that you should be able to sit for the license
without having a teaching degree.
Well, if the license is what prevents you from being a teacher,
you should just be able to take the exam to get a license
and then become a teacher. Mm-hmm. Like, why is there a degree requirement in the way of you sitting for that exam?
Right.
It makes no sense. Like, it literally doesn't make any sense to me.
And current teachers should be really supportive of that, I feel, because you have seen the result of the debt burden that you carry, and you should know that's not something you want for the people coming up behind you. I find that so interesting too, because a lot of them will say it's their degree that gave them their experience, but then they say that it's the license that's the important thing, that you have to have it. But then if you get the experience and you're able to take the test that says that you can have the license, why shouldn't you be able to teach? Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't want to talk about all of that right now. I wanted to hone in. Like, I thought that if you just stopped it right there, she's talking like they just walked in off the street and got hired as teachers and counselors.
No, I'm not.
Well, no, but like, if you just stopped right there, I disagree with you and you're wrong, but that's fine. We can leave it right there. But then they go on to say these are horrifically underpaid and for the most part thankless jobs, and she's wanting them to demonstrate vocational creativity, ! Why? It doesn't benefit them in the least. These are the types of jobs where engagement and loyalty are rewarded with more work. Most of those who stay in the profession learn to keep their head down, do the job, and hope it doesn't get much worse.
So whoever this is, thank you for the ad, because that is exactly why we started the launch program. That right there. So she wants them to be vocational creative. Why? Why? Because supposedly your job is to guide, literally it's in the name, guide kids to the correct job options that they need to know about that fit their needs, so they know what is out there and what they can do. And it is literally your entire job to do what our team is doing, and that is to give options that fit the needs of the students you are working with. And there's a couple problems with that are not all under their control, like a ratio problem. That's the main thing, right? The ratio is totally off. You'll have one or two guidance counselors in an entire school and you have all these kids. So that is literally not their fault. But that said, they still should know a lot more than they do, but they're not being taught that.
Well, they're being taught how to apply to colleges. They're being taught these are the colleges that you go to for this X, Y, and Z. If you want to do this, if you have interest in this, then you go this college, then you go to this college, and you go to this college. This is how you fill out the FAFSA. This is how you do this. Okay, you have to take this home, have your parents fill it out, whatever. It's actually pretty intensive, so make sure that they fill it out. That's the type of stuff that they're trained on.
Before we move into other stuff, the knee-jerk reaction to this too is, no, we talk about trade schools. So two things there that I want to break down. One, it's not college or trade school. Those are not the only two options. Almost all of the jobs that are going to require you to get a 4-year degree, you can attain without ever stepping foot on a 4-year college campus and paying them a red cent. So one, there's that. The second thing is that trade schools, by and large, have very similar stats to college. And that's what I'm talking about. If there are local apprenticeships and you can just say, hey, there's an apprenticeship. And when I say apprenticeship, I mean a small business owner who is willing to pay a student coming out of high school $15 to $20 an hour to learn a trade. That is what I'm talking about if you're going to funnel somebody into trades. But the problem is that guidance counselors go, oh, well, you're not going to go to college. That's fine. Here's the military recruiter's number. Or here, go into a trade school. They don't know anything else because that's all the tools that they are given.
Well, they say it themselves. These are the types of jobs where engagement and loyalty are rewarded with more work.
Yikes.
Most of those who stay in the profession learn to keep their head down, do the job, and hope it doesn't get much worse.
Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes.
This is the person that you are having literally guide your child, guide these young adults through this treacherous time of their life. This is it. And you're like, their loyalty gets rewarded with more work. And they become disengaged in it.
So I'm a guidance counselor. I'm helping your child figure out what paths are going to work for them. And I don't want to do work because I'm rewarded with working well, with more work, and I am disengaged. That's what this person is saying, which is literally our entire point. And also, that is not going to get a good result. It's just not. If the incentive structure in a school for a guidance counselor is all out of whack, it's not going to get good results for the students who they are, by their job listing, responsible for, which is why we exist. It's also a shame. What a shame. What a shame that they feel that way.
Yeah, the vocational creativity part is really, really important when trying to guide young adults, children, but even job seekers and career changers into certain roles or down certain paths. We keep saying it, and I keep saying it. How can you reach a goal if you don't have a target? But yeah, that is the first thing that I want to talk about. And increasing the vocational creativity, we have a bunch of podcast episodes on that. We can link them in the show notes, degreefree.co/podcast. And also, if you want to pre-order the workbook set that we have coming out, that has a bunch of vocational creativity exercises in there that helps to expand your knowledge as the parent and their knowledge as your child, as a young adult, as a person that's actually going to go through this and execute all of this. We have exercises in there to expand your and their vocational creativity. I mean, it's really their vocational creativity is expanding what matters because they're the one that's going to execute this plan. But, you as their guide through this, using this workbook set, it's also helpful to expand yours as well. And who knows? I mean, if you're a parent listening to this and you're looking for a new job, it might help you too. And so if you want to order that workbook set, it's on pre-order right now. You can go to degreefree.co/other options to sign up and buy the pre-order, and it should be shipping out sometime mid-June or so. Right now, as we record this, we are finalizing the titles, and we are now about to get the cover done. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that we have to do, but we're rushing this process because
we're trying to get it done by graduation.
It's not going to get done by graduation. No way.
But we're trying. That was our goal date. So we're trying. All right. So I wanted to break down something, and I'm going to call this the state of college, because I had a mom recently ask me in the launch program what the numbers were saying about the results for those that buy college degrees. I did an updated little mini deep dive on this. So this is from highereddive.com. It's a synthesis of a study by the Strada Institute for the Future of Work and the MC Burning Glass Institute. So do you remember a while back, there was the Washington University, I believe it was a 2019 study where they surveyed that 53% of recent college graduates were under or unemployed. As defined by the US government, that means making $28K or less.
I do not remember that.
Well, now you do.
But now I do.
So that was the state of college in 2019. That was 5 years ago now. So the numbers are not better. Half of graduates end up unemployed a year after graduation, 52%. I think it was like 52.4. So basically the same amount. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is college graduates 10 years after graduation. Do you want to take a wild guess what the underemployment and / unemployment rate is for college graduates after a decade?
Well, I guess I want to be shocked by this number, but I think logic says that it's somewhere close to the 50% raise, but I want to be shocked. So let's say it's 25%.
25%. So it's the same percentage of college graduates that get no benefit from going to college as far as increasing critical thinking. 45% of college graduates 10 years, an entire decade after they graduate are still under or unemployed. That is abysmal. That is abysmal, especially considering the average cost of a bachelor's degree per the National Center for Education Statistics and the Bureau of Labor Statistics data is $104,000. And 10 years after making an $104,000 on average purchase with tuition, opportunity costs, and lost wages will cost you over $500,000 in your lifetime. The result of that is a coin flip as to whether or not you are going to be employed better or even employed 10 years after you buy it. And it's crazy to me that people still treat this as the default. This is the default setting for our kids. And then we wonder, this is a little bit of an offshoot, but the other day we were watching that Scott Galloway TED Talk about how America hates young people and basically just making it really tough for young people to make it in life. And we'll have to do a breakdown of that video because it was so interesting and it had a lot to do with what we're talking about. But he came to, of course, the absolute wrong conclusion because he's a college professor. So he cannot come to the conclusion that the fault of all of this starts with academia. He cannot do that because it's too difficult because he is part of that academic class. Basically, he's shooting at academia, but from a really safe position, which is it's everybody else's fault, not it's academia's fault. It's just interesting because there is no other product that we would allow to be sold to 17 and 18-year-old kids that has a 45% failure rate. Can you imagine people selling cars to the parents of 17 and 18-year-old kids that has a 45% crash rate? That's insane. That's so crazy. And just watching people still send their kids to this and not realize that there is a 45% chance, or really, I think it's greater than this because I think this data is actually hard to track because after a certain length of unemployment, people just drop off the radar. The government can't track them anymore because there's no information on them because they drop off the radar. Just watching something that scary happen and it's not clicking that they should stop buying. That is the answer, in fact.
So we did want to talk about a couple of things. We can talk about STEM in a little bit if you want to get into that. But I did want to talk about a couple of things. The Scott Galloway TED Talk, what you said is that basically, he's not recognizing that it's academia's fault. I do want to give him his due. He is recognizing that it is academia's fault. He gets all of it right. He pretty much gets everything right in his presentation. The only thing that he really gets wrong in it is that he still thinks that you should go to college. His main argument is that college is still good to go. The thing that's stopping you, the main argument is the price of college. It's gotten way out of hand and it should be made affordable or free or whatever for everybody. That's his main argument. He thinks that college still has usefulness in getting you into a different social class or getting you into work. He does address that it is academia's fault.
He talks more about the wealth aspect of it, and he thinks that's more of a policy level in transferring and taxation. So I agree, but I don't agree at the same time. We'll do a deep dive on the video.
I wanted to represent what he was saying correctly, and I think I did there. 45% failure rate is what you were talking about. A decade later, these people are buying a $104,000 product and 45% failure rate is that they're still underemployed. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the way that they're selling their product, there's no goal with it. What I mean by that is a lot of people go to college to go to college. A lot of people go to college for, quote, education. They go there for some ethereal reason that isn't job placement, or at least that's what the colleges market to you. And if you don't know what to do, go to college. If you have no idea where you're going with life, go to college.
Yeah, if you're lost, pay.
And it makes a lot of sense because for parents, and then also for the young adults going through it as well, that action feels better than the alternative.
Which is waiting.
Which is what feels like inaction. What I mean by that is the action of going to college feels better than flipping burgers at McDonald's.
Even if that's going to end you in a financially better position.
Exactly. And as the parent can be like, when they have conversations with their colleagues, when they have conversations with their friends and everything like that. And if you're really honest with yourself, if you're a parent of somebody in this age range or somebody that has been through this age range, you know people like this, or you are somebody like this, you feel proud of what they're doing. The reason why I know this is because we have these conversations every single day. They're like, oh, well, yeah, my kid's in college for insert the major that they're in college for, their psychology degree or whatever. Or my kid is going to UCLA, or my kid's at Pepperdine, or my kid's at Harvard, or whatever. That's like the identity. Oh, that's what they're doing, and I'm proud of that. As a parent, you feel much prouder to say that than say, oh, they're a dishwasher at a local fast food restaurant. Oh, they're trying to figure out their life still. We have these conversations every single day. So, I mean, like, sure, maybe you listen to like, I don't say that. All right, that's cool. But like on broad strokes, I talk to more people in this age bracket than you do. This absolutely is how people feel, especially when they have two kids. That's when the difference it really is. It's when they have two kids and they say, oh yeah, this kid is a whatever major, and it's not even like a STEM major or something like that. Oh, yeah, they're a communications major at University of fill in the state school.
She's going for blah blah blah, and then he's just not college bound.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it's said, even if the parent is open to other things, but that is how people talk about them. It's because college is and has historically, and what's interesting is Scott Galloway bought, right? He believes that buying a degree is entry into a different social class, when the numbers say that it's not. Because the best case for that would be your top universities, like your Harvard, Yale, like all the big colleges, but less than 1% of the people that go in that are in the lower 50% of income come out above that. College changes absolutely nothing for them. And it's crazy. And he just completely ignores that. Maybe because that's really inconvenient. Because you go, interesting. The people that come in this circumstance rarely leave outside of this circumstance. Therefore, it has very little to do with the college. They're not impacting that whatsoever.
Can you clarify what you were saying? The 1%, bottom 50%?
Yeah. So basically what I'm saying is that if you come from the bottom 50% of income distribution and you go into an institution like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever, there is a 1% chance that you will break out of that lower 50% of earnings. What that shows you is that it has almost nothing to do with the college. The college has zero impact on that trajectory, almost none. 1% is nothing. That's laughable, especially when you consider the amount of students that go into those schools that come from the bottom 50% of income distribution. Most of them are going to, like 77% of them are in the top 50% of income distribution. So anyway, what I'm saying is that Scott Galloway thinks that going to college is going to change your social class. But in fact, what I think is that going in, if you are from lower middle income families, then it's going to cement you in the bottom because you're not able to service the debt burden like the kids from the top 50%. And so it's going to disparately impact you way more. Anyway, that's an offshoot. This is a thought that's coming to me as I look at all of these things from a different lens than a lot of people, especially than Scott Galloway. And he can't look at that too close because it's not a nice picture and it kind of defeats his entire foundation.
Well, his argument isn't necessarily about the top schools. It's just about getting into a school.
The other schools have worse results than that. I'm using the top ones because if the results are that bad at a top school where you're getting big network, big jobs, whatever.
But what he's saying is that it should be more affordable.
I understand.
Yes. I just want to make it clear for the people listening that what he's saying, we are not going to agree with him because he is coming with the base assumption that college is useful no matter what.
Yeah, college is always good.
College is always good. That is the base assumption that he's coming with. And he's saying that it should just be more affordable. It should be cheaper and more accessible for people to go to. That is what he's saying. He's saying that the classes that they make up, so when you break that down, like, okay, college is always good. Okay, so what does that actually mean when college is good? Really what they mean is that the coursework that they've created, the courses that they offer, and the coursework that they've created, and the curriculum that they created for whatever degree, for whatever major, for whatever studies you're going to take there, is what you need to know in your life for whatever you're going to do in your life. I think it's my argument that you go to college to get work. That's my argument.
Parents believe as well.
That's why
they buy.
That goes back to what I was saying. It's why they are proud. They're proud because they have hope. They have hope for the future. I mean, your child being a communications major at some university of fill in the state school's name is in and of itself not very impressive. But what you're saying is that, oh, I'm proud that in the future that this communications degree is going to help them live or just live the life they want.
Yeah.
Because of the job. They're going to get a good job, and then that job is going to service their debt payment, and it's going to enable them to live the life they want. That's what you're saying. That's the hope that you're given. And you're not hopeful when you are talking about your other child, when your other child is working in fast food, when they're just working a bunch of odd jobs, they're driving Uber or Lyft or whatever they're doing. That is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the 45% failure rate and talking about like, okay, you think it's a failure rate, but the colleges, if sold correctly, it's an ethereal thing. If the colleges do their job of selling you the product, then you're going to be happy no matter what. You are going to be happy because you just bought it for education's sake. And you're going to be like, it doesn't matter about your life outcomes. What an amazing business to be in.
Even if you fail, you still succeed.
Right. And so you are coming to it with a very practical approach with a 45% failure rate, but that is not how everybody views it, because we know this because people tell us this every single day.
The way I'm defining failure rate is according to parents, because the motivation of most parents is to help their kid get a job. That is what they think the outcome of attending a college will be. They're not buying for, oh, well, my kid will be educated or well-rounded. They are doing that because they believe that that is the best path or the only path to good work. That is why they do it.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Degree Free podcast. At Degree Free, we want to help everyone thrive and succeed without needing a college degree. And the only way to truly reach everyone is with your help. If you're getting value out of this episode, or if this is your second, third, or fourth episode that you're tuning into, if you could just ship this to a friend, just click that one button and share it with someone in your contacts or on your stories. It would mean the world to us. And more importantly, get our message out to more people who need help getting out of their current situation. If you could do that right now, that would mean a whole lot.
You and I know this. Colleges, that's how they market. That is how they market. They're not saying, oh, come to us and buy this because then you'll be educated. No. They're saying, come here because if you come here and you buy this thing from us, you'll get a good job. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the people that we talk to care about their children, their young adults getting jobs.
Yes, they do.
That's the selection bias that we have. And this is just a transparency thing.
But you're not going to hire our team if you don't want your child to get a good job, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah, right. We come at it with a completely different approach, with a very practical approach, instead of like...
College is always good. College is rarely necessary.
Yeah, well, not only that, it's not even college. It's just we care about work, because we believe that work is what enables you to do everything else in your life.
Including become educated.
Yes, exactly. We think that life goals comes first. Okay. Identify your life goals. Once you've identified and solidified those, then you find work and avenues to get to that work that fulfill those life goals. It's that simple. That's what we do. And so all the parents that we speak to
want their kids to get good jobs.
Want their kids to get good jobs. They also hold that same worldview. You can be educated and also work towards getting a job. Like, college isn't the only place where education happens. Education can happen in your regular life as well. So I just want to get that selection bias out of the way, because that is absolutely true. The people that we talk to care about that. But there is a cohort of people, and I don't know if it's a majority, I don't know if it's a minority, but there is a cohort of people that just want their child to go to college because they want them to be, quote, educated. So I'm saying 45% failure rate. How many of those people really think that it's a failure?
Well, I think that most of them would probably define it as a failure if their kids can't service their student loan debt burden. And if they paid what the average cost of college is, then they're not being able to do that. And I think that most people would define that as a failure rate. The college has failed those graduates. Next, I want to address what usually the next knee-jerk reaction is, which is, well, if they just get a STEM degree. No, STEM is not going to save you. I have to say this until I'm blue in the face, because on TikTok, people just say, oh, they're picking the wrong majors. No, it's not that at all, actually. College graduates that graduate with STEM degrees, nearly 47% of them are underemployed 5 years after graduating college. And because most people are not going in and getting quantitative mathematics degrees. Most people are going in and getting biology degrees. They're getting other pre-med majors. They're getting healthcare administration degrees. Those are STEM degrees. However, those college degrees for the most part don't lead to jobs necessarily, but people that buy those types of degrees don't come out and then go into high paying fields for the most part. They come out and they struggle to find work, and the available work, and this is something I'm so tired of seeing. So I just want to say this by itself. It does not matter how much you pay for your college degree. The available wage is the available wage. I'm going to say it again for people that didn't hear. It does not matter how much you pay a college for your degree or degrees. The available wage that was available before you went into college is still the available wage after. So it does not matter if you go and you get a social work degree. I saw this the other day on TikTok. You get a social work degree, you get master's degree in psychology, you get graduate degree in social work. And then when I went in to apply at the local center, at the local clinic, and they said that the starting wage was $39,000. And this girl is horrified. Yeah, that was probably the wage before you bought all those degrees. It's still the wage after. I'm not talking about whether or not that should be the wage, or we have a shortage, or mental health is important. None of that stuff. All I am saying is that the job that she was going to be qualified for, that's in quotes for those of you listening to the podcast, before she bought 3 college degrees and was in school for 8 years, paid $39,000. After she spent, I think she said it was like $196,000 on degrees. 8 years later, the available wage for the job she was qualified for was still $39,000. The purchase of a degree had absolutely no effect on the end wage. And that is something that I think the STEM people need to think about a little bit, because they just say, oh, as long as it's a STEM degree, they're going to be fine. There is absolutely no guarantee of that. Not at all. STEM is not a guarantee.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with going in to whatever degree you're getting, STEM or not STEM, STEM or anything, going into it without a plan. And you're just saying, okay, well, this degree is my plan. When you go in it with that mindset, that is where it goes wrong. It can go wrong many other places as well, but that's starting off on the wrong foot from the get-go. Okay, I have a very clear goal that I want to get to, and whatever this degree is going to help me service that thing, that goal, well, that's much, much better. But it's those people that are like, well, just go get a STEM degree. For what? To what end? Like literally to what end? Like where are we going with that? Because if you're just throwing darts at a dartboard, that is a very heavy and expensive dart to throw.
And stressful also.
Right, exactly. But it's just like, why are we throwing that? For what job? For what reason? The thing is like, well, that job, whatever job that I'm trying to get requires a degree. How do you know? Have you tried to get whatever job is right now before you go to college or in college? Have you tried to apply to those jobs and try to land them and to see if they actually require a degree? And then also you could go through the legal requirement breakdown that's in the book that's coming out as well. You can just go through and we went through it already in another episode, but it's literally, does this require a license? Yes or no? And does that license require a degree to get? That's it. And then there are some outlier jobs that absolutely legally require a degree.
Go over in the book.
Which we go over. I mean, it's just government jobs. I mean, I'll tell you right there. It's fine. Yeah, government jobs are pretty much the only ones. And once again, if you know of anyone that legally requires a degree, like anything, any job that legally requires a degree, I want to know about it.
We want to know about it.
Yeah, put it in the YouTube comments. I wanted to hone in on what you were saying about the $39,000, that job paying the same prior to you going to college and after you going to college. Nobody cares. The truth of the matter is like nobody cares how much you paid to get a college degree. Nobody cares how much your child has paid to get a degree. It is what it is. And if you're staring down the barrel of a $30,000 a year purchase and you're like, well, I'm not sure if they need to get a degree to do whatever the role is, the thing that you should be doing at the very first thing is just apply to those roles. That's free. You don't have to spend $30,000 to do it.
Yeah, you can just give it a shot. The reason too is the biology science thing is such a problem. I've talked about this before, but there's so many girls that want to go into things that have to do with animals, and it makes sense, right? Animals are interesting and cool, and they want to go into something having to do with animals. And I don't mean vet necessarily, but other animal jobs. And I always ask the parents, I just say, hey, have you looked at just applying at a local, I want to be a marine biologist. Okay, well, can you afford to do that? And then I just say, why don't you just take a look at the jobs at the local fishery and see what that pays? Because if you look at the jobs that fishery technicians make versus people that are required, in quotes, to have master's or graduate degrees in marine biology, the pay is very, very similar. And if they want to scratch that itch and try to work in that industry, they should just go apply for an entry-level job in that industry and test it out, and then see if they want to spend $200,000, $250,000 in order to make $5 more an hour. See if they want to do that. See if that seems like a good investment, a good return on their money and time.
Are fish animals?
Well, I'm not a biology major, so no, but I think in the term that parents and their interested 16 to 20-year-olds are referring to it, to me, yes.
I'm not convinced fish are animals. I don't see it.
Are animals not living things that aren't humans? Well, I mean, I guess humans are animals too.
That's why we got to go to college.
Wow, I'm so...
You got to get educated.
I just don't know. Let me just go find a college to pay $100,000 to. But you know what I mean? Living things that are not humans is my definition of animals in this regard. That's what I'm talking about. That's going to do numbers on TikTok. That's going to do... I can already hear the comments.
No,
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
I wasn't even being like literal about fish being animals. I'm just thinking to myself,
are they?
If I wanted to work with animals, like, would I regard fish?
Well, I was using brain.
I'm literally not thinking like literally. I'm not thinking literally. I'm just thinking like, I think when you think of working with animals, I'm thinking of hugging puppies all day or petting horses or that type of...
What do you think working with animals is?
I don't know. Now you're like, marine biology. Now we're in the ocean. Now I'm thinking about just being on a fishing boat. That doesn't seem like that's my vision of working with animals.
But yeah, I don't know if they're, I don't know. Are fish animals? I need a marine biologist to tell me. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is that if your kid wants to work with horses, then you don't need to go buy them an equine degree. What you need to do is go see if there's farrier apprenticeships available, or if they want to work with livestock, go see if... I just had someone message me about a cattle analyzer job, which is so interesting, but that's basically the breeding and selection of dairy herds, which is fascinating all by itself, and it pays very well. Anywho, that's a good example of work with animals. Don't go buy a biology degree or whatever in order to get into that. But I think that that's pretty solid for what I wanted to talk about. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was I had a story that I wanted to tell you folks. So we got a message that I have not been able to get out of my head. And the reason is because we get messages that are in this form all the time. But this one specifically was, I think, just the straw that broke the camel's back. And the message said, "What are good careers for my ADHD child?" Okay. There is so much to unpack here. I'm going to try to do it succinctly, but basically the answer to the question, what are good jobs for my ADHD child, is the same answer as what are good jobs for my anything else child. And that is jobs that fit the needs that they have. That is the answer. There is a worrying trend that I have noticed, which is parents will try to select careers or jobs or industries for their children to go into based on some factor about them before they've explored a lot of jobs. And this becomes a problem because there's not a lot of vocational creativity, as we talk about all the time. But if a kid only knows 6 to 8 jobs, and then they further narrow that list by saying what jobs are good for my ADHD child, they're going to end up with one job, and that one job likely will not have been broken out, and the parent and the student will not have gone, is this going to enable me to support myself? Is this going to pay my bills? Is this going to let me live where I want to live? Is this going to give me the type of schedule that works for me? And especially if they do have a insert here issue, right? And so that's something that I think is really important to note. And the reason I wanted to say that is because there is not a broad blanket that you can put over all kids that have insert issue here, or specifically in this case, ADHD. So you can't just say, oh, these are good jobs for ADHD kids, because a job that might be good for an ADHD 19-year-old boy who wants to live in Key West would be to go work on a fishing boat and get his captain's license. but a good job for an ADHD girl who lives in Oregon and is 17 years old and wants to live down the road from her sister because she has two nieces that she wants to spend time with and she wants to own her own little house. Those are completely different. And so it just shows what a problem we have around the conversation about work, because we're going, what are good careers? Like, we're already way down the tracks. We need to go way back to the beginning and say, what does your child need to support themselves? What do they need to get to the goals that they want? And then after you nail those things down, what do they want out of work? If you can even get there, because you might have a very small list from what do they need in order to pay their bills. And then you look at jobs from that lens, which is how we do it in the launch program.
Yeah. So I think a different way of putting that is that to think about these things, to think about job prospects and how to get a job and vocational creativity from the perspective of how do I accommodate whatever limiting factor that you think is a limiting factor? Like, how do I do that? That's starting off on the wrong foot already. That is a bad place to put the filter first. The way that I think about it and the way that I've written it in our book that we're releasing, degreefree.co/other options to pre-order, is you need to figure out what their needs and wants are. Need is going to be absolutely necessary must-haves out of jobs. And then wants are, quote, nice to have. So let's just say for income, usually that is a need, or at least like a certain level of income is a need. So a need could be, I need to make $15 an hour. Or I need to make $20 an hour in order to pay my bills, whatever.
Save, invest, do what I want. Yeah.
And then you might want to make $30 an hour. Okay, perfect. So you have your need and you have your want. You look for jobs that fill however many needs you have on your needs list. And you don't stop until you find a bunch of jobs that fill all those needs. And I think, just as a tangential thing, this is why there's so low work-life satisfaction, is because people don't take this practical approach to finding work.
That's why so few college graduates also end up using their degrees and work in their industry even at all. They end up way in something else because they didn't think about that beforehand.
Yeah. So the work-life satisfaction part of it, I don't make enough money or whatever, insert anything that you've bitched about before about your job, or anybody that you know, or Carl down in the other desk clump is like, he's always like, oh my God, this sucks. And probably because they didn't think about like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I want. So these are my non-negotiables and I'm not going to stop until I get this thing. That's really where our approach comes from. Define your goals and then find work to fulfill those goals. Right now, what these parents that message us these things and insert anything there, ADHD, literally anything. You're putting that filter before something else. You're putting that filter before everything else. So you're limiting your child and you're limiting your young adults' prospects from the get-go, when really that filter should be placed after their needs and wants, or within their needs and wants. That works as well. But just to say, okay, well, which ones work for ADHD people? That's like, I don't know. What are their goals? What does that mean, ADHD? Like, do they not want to talk to people? Does that mean like they're hyperactive, so they want to talk to a lot of people? Do they want to be outside? Do they want to be inside? What does that mean? Asking that question is the wrong filter to put first. And I'll talk about for myself for a second. I can't talk about anybody else's experience in life, but for me, I have one of these, quote, limiting things, and especially more prevalent in my younger life. I had eczema, and I have eczema still to this day. It's like a rash that you have. And it was really bad 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It was really, really bad, like visibly bad. Like if you look at all the pictures of me when I was a middle schooler, high schooler, like I always had like a towel around my neck or like a shirt around my neck because it was all open wounds and people thought it was weird. And anyway, that very much so is a limiting factor in the amount of work that I could get, like the types of jobs that I could get. But I shouldn't let that stop me from looking at all the different roles. I looked at like, okay, well, what do I want to do? I didn't have this needs and wants approach yet. It was just more like want to do. And so I would look at things that I wanted to do and I would be like, okay, well, can I do that? All right, well, no, I can't because I have to be outside all the time. Going into the military was one of the things I couldn't do. Literally went to the Air Force recruiter and I was with my friends at the time and we were talking, three of us there. We were talking with the guy And he was all in because there's like 3 of us there. And so he was just like,
well, that's my quota for the month.
he's like licking his chops, right? And I tell him, he's basically, oh, are you guys all healthy? Whatever. And yeah, pretty much. Oh, but I have eczema. And he just stopped talking to me. He literally just stopped talking to me. And I was like, was funny because I was in the middle. I was like, so there's 3 of us, right? And the guy's desk. And then we pulled up 3 chairs because usually there's only 2 chairs there. And so we pulled up another chair. There was my friend to the left of me and my friend to the right of me, but I was sitting dead center in the middle. And as soon as he found out that I had eczema, I was like disqualified. He's like, you're not going to get through maps. For the rest of the conversation, he kept having to look over. Both of the guys' names were Rob. And so they had to look at Rob on my right and Rob on my left. He just like went right over me.
Would you say that you were robbed of your chance to get into the Air Force?
By the Robs.
By the Robs.
Yeah. And so I let the careers themselves filter out. I at least looked into it though. You look into it.
And then if it eliminates itself because it's not a good fit, now you know that that's not a fit, but you don't limit first. You limit last.
Exactly. Instead of thinking like, oh, okay, well, what can people with eczema do? You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, they can't do this, this and that, this and this and that.
You go, what are jobs that meet their needs? And then of those jobs, which ones are good for those with the type of ADHD you have, but more niche than that, which jobs are good for you specifically with your brand of whatever.
And that's where it comes down to putting it into a needs and want and more naming your demons, like naming your wants, naming their needs, that type of thing. Okay, well, my child has ADHD and that manifests in they can't get anything done or they're hyperactive and they want to work outside. Okay, that is incredibly actionable.
Yes.
Wanting to work outside is incredibly actionable.
Yeah.
But having ADHD is not. And if you want to insert whatever other limitation, whether it be physical handicap or something else, okay, perfect. Like, you know, if you're a paraplegic, like, well, you can't walk around. So you're going to have to do a job that's not walking around in the oil field all day.
Right. So for somebody in that situation, number 1 on that would be work environment. You have to be somewhere where you don't have to constantly move around because that's difficult, if that's your criteria.
Or if there's an easy way to get around, like if there's a ADA type of way to get around in that job, you look for it.
Yes.
Anyway, it's just a different way. When you think from that perspective of, I'm going to let this limiting factor limit my job options and I'm going to cater to those things first. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Drill down what is the limitation, name it, and then put that on your needs and wants list.
Yep.
Like I said,
in the correct order.
We walk you through this whole process in the book, degreefree.co/other options. And I mean, I just laid out the whole process for you.
I cannot wait for people to get their hands on this.
You can literally just do it right there too.
Yep. I'm stoked for this book to come out because that solves this problem for a lot of people. I'm just so excited for it. But yeah, folks, I think that's it for today.
Yep. That's pretty much it for today. I think that was a good episode. What do you think?
I think so too.
Yeah, I'm excited to get feedback as usual. YouTube. Once again, guys, if there is a job that requires a college degree, not a license gated by a college degree, I want to know about it.
Me too.
So leave
We're going to make a list.
YouTube comments, Spotify comments. Let me know. I think that's pretty much it for this week, guys. Until next week. Aloha.